And so now I'm going to talk about my top running backs in the NFL. I only went to 25 because there are so many running backs to talk about, and the list was pretty hard to make. I'm not going to lie. But Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are not number one. It's Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, I believe, is the best running back in the league. What he is able to do with like half the carries, I mean, it's not half, but it's, you get the point. Nick Chubb doesn't get the carries that Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry does, and he still puts up crazy stats. Yes, he is behind a good offensive line, but what he's able to do once he gets past that first level and after first contact is, bar none, one of the best. Number 2 is Jonathan Taylor. He is a very gifted runner when it comes to hitting the hole, making guys miss, and then hitting a top speed where he outruns the secondary. And that's why I have him at number 2. Number 3 is Derrick Henry. There's not a whole lot that needs to be said why Derrick Henry's at least in the top 5. The reason I have him number 3 is because he wasn't healthy last year, and he just gets fed the ball almost every single play. Like, the Titans come out and they're like, all right, we're going to play good defense and we're going to run the ball. We're just going to play old school football. And I love that. I personally love that. But if you're ranking running backs, if you were to give Nick Chubb the carries that Derrick Henry had, I believe Nick Chubb would statistically be better. Jonathan Taylor gets those same amount of carries somewhat, and we were able to see what he was able to do at the end of the season, be the league leader. But yeah, Derrick Henry is top 3 running back in the NFL. Number 4 is Dalvin Cook. He is a very versatile running back, and same thing with number 5 at Christian McCaffrey. Both of these guys are very good pass catchers. Christian McCaffrey is obviously a better pass catcher, but the reason Christian McCaffrey is number 5 is because he's had problems with staying healthy. So the reason Dalvin Cook's over Christian McCaffrey is because he, I feel, is a better pure running back at running between the tackles. He's also in an offense where he's not the number 1 guy. It is now Justin Jefferson and then Dalvin, and then it's Adam Thielen. So Dalvin Cook is able to produce. He will be the number 4 running back. Number 5, Christian McCaffrey. That's if he stays healthy. And if he stays healthy, he has room to move up the list. Same with any of these guys on the list. They have chances to move up, and they can move down. I will probably recreate this list at the end of the preseason. Number 6 is Austin Eckler. He, I believe, is underrated as a running back. He is a good pass catcher. He's good for at least 7 catches a game. Great fantasy pickup for anybody out there that is looking to have a good fantasy running back. Austin Eckler, consistently good. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He puts up points fantasy-wise. He puts up points in the real game. He scores touchdowns. He gets great yardage. Austin Eckler at number 6. Number 7, barring that he can play, Alvin Kamara. And they struggled last year with him, but I believe that's due to the fact that Michael Thomas wasn't playing, and that Jameis Winston got hurt. So they were bouncing between Taysom Hill and Ian Book at quarterback. Alvin Kamara, like, if you were playing against the Saints last year, the number 1 thing you had to do was stop Alvin Kamara, and you shut down their entire offense. They didn't have any playmakers outside of him, so that's why he's lower on this list. He was on my fantasy team last year, so I was very frustrated with the performances he was putting up, but I couldn't blame him. I was like, you know what? You are in a bad situation, my friend. I am sorry. But you are also putting me in a bad situation. So that's why he's number 7. Number 8 is Joe Mixon. Very well-rounded running back. He can throw the ball, as we saw in the Super Bowl. Great between the tackles runner. And I believe he's going to be in store for a good season because he's on an offense where The weapons are all around him, just very good. Like, you can't focus just on one because the next guy will burn you. And so that's why I believe he will have a statistically good season. When it comes to yards per carry, he might not get a whole lot of carries because they're going to be spreading the ball out all around the field. Week by week, it might change the game plan. The game plan might change. But Joe Mixon will be a top 10 running back. Number 9 is Najee Harris, and the reason I have him here is because great rookie campaign. And the Steelers are going to lean on him heavily because their quarterbacks are Mitch Trubisky, who had one good season with the Bears, but I believe he will step up. But he was a backup last year, so he hasn't seen a lot of game reps in a while. He's in a new town, learning a new system, so it's going to take him a while, so they're going to lean on Najee to kind of carry that load. Kenny Pickett has been struggling in camp from what I've been hearing. And the reports that have been coming out of there is just he's not looking good. And the Steelers used their first-round pick on him. And as a Steelers fan, I wasn't very enthusiastic about the Kenny Pickett pick. Yes, I get a lot of people were happy. Oh, the Pitt kid stays in Pittsburgh. Okay, makes for a cool storyline the night of the draft and maybe going into camp. But this is the NFL. It's a business. And the business is to win games, win Super Bowls. And that, in hindsight, it might not be the best pick for them. It might come back to bite them in the butt. But Najee Harris will be a top 10 running back in the NFL because he's a good pass catcher, he's a good running back overall, and he will be the number 9 running back. Number 10 will be DeAndre Swift. If he stays healthy in that Lions offense, he will be a top 10 running back in the NFL. They have some weapons there in Detroit now, which is awesome. I am excited to see that. And he is going to blossom this year. That is my prediction. He will blossom into a top 10 running back in the NFL, and he will be the cornerstone of that Detroit offense moving forward. Yes, they have Jared Goff at quarterback, so we're going to throw screens to him. We don't want Jared Goff having to think too much. We just want to get him to get rid of the ball and give it to DeAndre Swift, who is a pure playmaker. He is dangerous in the open field. He's dangerous running the ball. He's dangerous catching the ball. So that's why he will be a top 10 running back. Number 11 through 15, I'll read them off and then I'll explain why certain players are where. So 11 is Aaron Jones, 12 Josh Jacobs, 13 Leonard Fournette, 14 Javonte Williams, 15 James Conner. The reason I have Aaron Jones at 11 is because they are in Green Bay. They just lost Devontae Adams. And I believe they're going to use Aaron Jones more as a pass catcher than a running back because A.J. Dillon is on the rise. And he is a power running back that in goal line situations, it's not going to be Aaron Jones. It's going to be A.J. Dillon pounding the football into the end zone. So Aaron Jones' production has been trending down as of last year. Number 12, Josh Jacobs. He's a good running back. It's just the addition of Devontae Adams is going to take away from his carries a little bit. And there's also Darren Waller. And, Derek Carr is going to want to spread the ball out. And when it comes to running the ball, they probably won't do it as much just because they might be down in games where they're going to have to resort to throwing it. So if he's not making a splash in the first half when the game is competitive, they might start to shy away from him. But don't get me wrong, he's a good running back. I like Josh Jacobs. Big physical runner. Like, he will break tackles. He's not afraid to shy away from contact. So that's why I have him at 12. 13, Leonard Fournette. He has developed really well. So when he was at LSU, he was very one-dimensional. Between the tackles, running back. Running guys over, physical. Same thing in Jacksonville. Started to, get a little bit better at running outside the tackles and, widening his skill set. But when he got to Tampa Bay is when I noticed he took a leap, not as a running back who can run the ball, but he can also catch. The whole idea of Tom Brady throwing him the ball on a check down out of the backfield or putting him on a little swing route and putting him in open space. And what playoff Lenny was able to do during their Super Bowl run was incredible. What he's able to do last year was pretty good. But the problem is, they have a guy named Ronald Jones. They had a guy named Ronald Jones in their backfield who was just as good, and sometimes he would take away a little bit from Leonard Fournette. And so that's why he's not a top 10 running back. But he is definitely top 15, in my opinion. Number 14, Javonte Williams. He was splitting carries with Melvin Gordon. And he was by far the number one running back on that team. I love everything that he brings to the table. I had to play against him in fantasy when he would go off. So I was there to see those stats, and then I would watch those games. And I was like, This kid is special. He's got something. And with Russell going over there, his carries might go down or stay right around the same, and Melvin's probably will go down, but they're going to want to throw the ball a little bit more now that they have Russell Wilson at quarterback. 15 is James Conner. I believe he had a good season last year. He had a really good season. I didn't believe he was going to, but he proved me wrong in Arizona. And with the whole thing with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins being only good for the first 2 weeks of the season, and then after that they kind of just go AWOL, and you're just like, hey, where are the two best players, or allegedly two best players on our team? Where do they go? So they started leaning on James Conner, and he started doing his thing. He was a beast. But he's not in that elite tier of being top 5, and he's not in the great tier of being in the top 10. He's a good player. He's a good running back, so that's why he's at 15. So then now I'll read you 16 through 25. 16, Saquon Barkley. 17, Ezekiel Elliott. 18, David Montgomery. 19, Damian Harris. 20, Miles Sanders. 21, Devin Singletary. 22, Kareem Hunt. 23, Tony Pollard. 24, A.J. Dillon. And 25, Antonio Gibson. Now, Saquon had a great rookie season. Same can be said about Ezekiel Elliott. But they've been battling injuries, and they haven't been the same since that rookie campaign. But I believe they still have something left in the tank, where obviously they're the number one running backs on their team, one of the focal points of their offenses. But they're not the same player anymore. So that's why I have him at 16 and 17. And then David Montgomery was dealing with injuries last year, but he will be on a Bears team where I feel they will try to run the ball a little bit more with him, just because they have a defensive-minded coach who will most likely want to run the ball, eliminate as many turnovers as you can, try to keep the ball in your hands and end the possession on your terms, whether it's a touchdown, a field goal, or a punt. You don't want to end the possession on a turnover. So I believe David Montgomery will get a decent amount of carries and put up some good stats. 19, Damian Harris. I can't say a whole lot for him, but what he was able to do in a few games, he would put up a couple of weeks where he'd play really well, and then there was a couple games where he didn't play so well. But I believe he will have a steady season where that 19th spot will be warranted. I hope he moves up. I hope all these guys move up. But obviously some guys will move up, some guys will move down. 20, Miles Sanders. In that offense that he's in, I believe he is going to be in for, he's not going to be the number one guy. He's not. But he will be good enough where he will be serviceable, and he will not be overlooked in the opposing team's defensive coordinator's game plans. 21, Devin Singletary. He will be on an offense where his success will be because Josh Allen and the boys are throwing the ball all over the place, and they're going to be up on teams, so they're going to run the ball. That's why I have him there. The best backup running back in the NFL, in my opinion, is Kareem Hunt. Uh, so that's why I have him at 22 in front of Tony Pollard. It was a tough decision to rank these two guys. So that's why I have them right next to each other. I feel if you were to put Tony Pollard in Kareem Hunt's situation, Tony Pollard might be able to do the same things that Kareem Hunt is doing. And if you were to put Kareem Hunt in Tony Pollard's situation, they're almost identical. They kind of go hand in hand. But Tony Pollard, I believe, will probably move up at the end of in this rankings list at the end of the preseason when I come back to revisit this. And then at 24, A.J. Dillon. Like I said, he's been on the rise. Great physical running back, especially like when you get down to the goal line. Like you can give him the ball and you know he's getting at least back to the line of scrimmage. And then at 25, I have Antonio Gibson. It's sad to see that he's in Washington where he's not in the best situation. I was watching games where I was like, man, this guy is so good, but just doesn't have a whole lot of help around him, and that him and Terry McLaurin are kind of struggling because they've got Taylor Heineke at quarterback. And, you know, we had a great playoff game against the Bucs when they were the Washington football team. But since then, Taylor Heineke hasn't done a whole lot. And that Commanders offense, it's really just Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, and Carson Wentz coming over there kind of is going to hurt that offense, I believe. I don't think Carson Wentz is that much better than Heineke. But I hope Carson Wentz proves me wrong. I wish success on every single NFL player. I want everybody to do well because it makes it entertaining for me to talk about them on this podcast. And I want to talk great about everybody. I don't want to put anybody down. But that is my running back rankings, the top 25, my way too early top 25 running back rankings in the NFL. I'll read it one more time in order. So it goes Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift are the top 10. And then 11 through 25 is Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams, James Conner, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, David Montgomery, Damian Harris, Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, A.J. Dillon, and Antonio Gibson. And that rounds out the top 25 running backs in the NFL as of Friday, June 17th, in my own opinion. Next, we'll be talking about the Detroit Lions and where I believe they will be at the end of the season. And I will go over game by game for their schedule.